Now I'm really looking forward to our next panel, which seems very promising to me. They will discuss the question, is Asia the epicenter of DeFi and financial innovation? And now I hand over to Thai, the chair of the panel.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Thai Panish, the CEO of SCB 10X, the digital technology investment arm of Siam Commercial Bank, which is the biggest and oldest bank in Thailand. And I'm very excited today to have with me the three builders of very successful DeFi projects in Asia. And of course, we are going to talk about DeFi in Asia. I have with me Sawit Siri Satyawong, Integration Lead at Band Protocol, Do Kwan, CEO and co-founder of Terra Money, Mirror Protocol, and Anchor Protocol, and Tasha Panyaneramit, CEO and co-founder of Alpha Finance Lab. Yeah, so I'm going to go around and ask each of the speakers to introduce yourself and your company. Sawit, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, so I'm Sawit. I'm currently the integration lead at Band Protocol. So Band Protocol is a decentralized cross-chain data oracle where we help smart contracts, blockchain platforms, and decentralized applications bring off-chain data such as crypto prices, stock prices, or other metrics onto the blockchains used to extend the capability of smart contracts. And since these last 6 months that we have been on mainnet, we have had a chance to work with many top-tier protocols, including the like of what we have here, right? Both Mirror Protocol, Terra, and Alpha, and also other big names such as Cream.
Do?
Hi, I'm Do. I'm the founder of Terra. So Terra creates a number of different things, mainly centered around creating decentralized stablecoins to constitute liquidity and primitives around DeFi protocols. So today we power a number of different interesting protocols on top of Terra, such as Mirror Protocol, which allows the creation of synthetic assets that track the price of any asset class in the world with a continuous price signal, thereby allowing people easy price exposure and investment opportunities into any asset class in the world. And we also have things like Anchor, which is a savings protocol offering stable, attractive yields to users in DeFi. And generally, the purpose of the project is to create a decentralized money that is easier to spend, earn, and invest in across lots of different use cases.
Tasha?
Hi, I'm Tasha, co-founder and CEO of Alpha Finance. And, Alpha Finance is a DeFi lab, right? So the purpose that we created is from us noticing that there are so many market gaps in DeFi. And with the speed of DeFi growing, expanding, there has to be an ecosystem, which is the one that we're creating, to pretty much close that market gaps on potential areas that we see. There are so many demand to use it. One area, for instance, is leverage farming is the first product that we created, which is Alpha Homora. And there are many more areas that we have been building to innovate the landscape, right? And I think the end goal of it is that we know that DeFi is going to be here for the long term. We don't know how it is going to look like, because of the changes of regulatory landscape, changes, with every day, DeFi changes very fast, right? But along the way that DeFi grows, Alpha Finance ecosystem will grow with it, and we'll make sure that we bring new innovations, bring relevant innovations, right? And pretty much be the key player that drive DeFi forward.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So with that, let's go into Q&A, and I'm sure it's going to be quite informative. So my first question to the panel is that from your observation, are there meaningful differences between the DeFi user in the West versus DeFi user in Asia? So when you build out the DeFi product, are there differences in what is needed to make it successful to the Western audience versus the Asian audience? Yeah, what do you think? Maybe let's go with Tasha.
Yeah, I think I think let me take a step back, and I think in order for a DeFi project to be successful, they should have a global mindset, because DeFi and crypto itself is a pretty global landscape, right? There's no boundary. Pretty much, even though there might be some obstacles that make it more harder for some groups of users who may not be more comfortable in English, which is the main language used in crypto and DeFi pretty much. But still, it's pretty much transparent and no barriers. So I think that's the main point that I think all DeFi founders and projects should keep in mind, right? With regards to the question itself, in terms of, how do we make sure that we build successfully in capturing Asian users and also Western users, I think what's really important that I realize is that, with language being one of the main barriers, in order for us, let's say Alpha, right, have to expand to one particular geographical area, then that means we have to have, a pretty huge local community there to begin with, and also the community manager. Because if not, then there would be pretty much no place for the local group to converse, to get their answers, pretty much discussed and everything. And I think this would take time before it become more of a smooth global landscape. And I think this is when the landscape of startup in general and blockchain startup particularly has to be developed in Asia.
Do, what do you think?
Well, what's kind of interesting about DeFi is that most people, lots of people are just basically frogs on Telegram and Discord. So it's kind of hard to tell whether the user is coming from Asia or the West. And actually, everybody pretends to be bad at English, not to dox themselves. So they speak in acronyms and different things like that. So I think for sort of the power user in DeFi, it's hard to make a distinction in terms of where exactly they happen to be based at the moment. And I think it's largely a fairly global audience. What is interesting, though, is I think what's starting to change over the last few months is that there's actually quite a bit of localization going on. So one of the things that we noticed for Mirror, especially, so like for Mirror, it allows users to invest into different types of synthetics, like, for example, tokenized Apple stock, or let's say, commodities, or some meme stocks like GameStop and AMC and different things like that. And then, like, the appeal to a lot of users in Asia is that they're now able to get fast and 24/7 access to some of these equities without having to, jump through hoops that they would have to do with traditional broker dealers. So what's kind of interesting is that if the use case is sufficiently compelling, there would be, members of the community that create videos, run their own Telegram rooms, create educational content so that people in their respective geographies can participate with the DeFi protocol. So that's one of the things that's been really interesting. So when we first launched Mirror, like our top user base was in China, and then Thailand was, briefly top market, and then now it's like number 3. And then Indonesia and different things like that. So it was kind of interesting to see how a lot of sort of like the long tail demand for retail is coming in from geographies that we just hadn't really anticipated all that much, based on how difficult it is to get access to different types of equities. So I think localization isn't something that necessarily the core team solves specifically. So different from, like the bundled fintech stack and DeFi, what you see is that if you create protocols that offer a sufficiently compelling value proposition, the power of the community is going to solve a lot of the localization problems.
Got it. Savit?
I think I'm just going to go off based on what Tasha and Do said, right? I think generally the advantage and the value proposition of DeFi is pretty global in terms of, people want to have more control over their finances, more transparency in how their money is being used and utilized when they put it in a bank or put into an investment, as well as less restrictions and exclusion on what they can do with their money. And in that, I think there's room for people or for protocols, for founders to innovate for a specific group of users, be it, geographically or depending on region or type of people. For example, as Do said, right, Mirror protocols allows Asian or non-US, non-Western people to have exposure and invest in a more global and diverse set of stocks, including US stocks, which at least for Thailand normally you would have to go through a lot of steps and a lot of process. And even after that, you would still be at the mercy of, the banks and your investment and manager, and you won't really have actual, full control of when you buy, when you sell, and the small details that you can have with the DeFi protocols.
Yeah, actually, like though you touched on that that Asian countries rank on top of many DeFi projects, like you mentioned in Mineral. We also saw that in like MetaMask, in Pancake Swap on BSC, but we still don't see that many DeFi projects from Asia on the top 20 by TVL. I'm curious, like, why do you think that is the case, and what are the key factors that could drive, the more innovative DeFi projects to come out from Asia? Sabit, you want to start with that?
Yep, sure. I think for me, the main thing is that it's about two things, finding and attracting talent. And on that, I think right now in Asia or in Thailand, there are still boundaries to, for people to bring in that talents that might not be native to their country, such as, expats and other things. And that's more on the regulation side. And in the US and in other countries as well, I think we are starting to see, tech visa and startup visas that allows people to easily migrate and, relocate to their countries, given that if they provide enough value to a specific industry. And on that, I don't really see why we cannot push for a similar, status quo or similar regulation to be in place for Asia and for countries in Asia. And I think that can help a lot with building new protocols and having more innovative founders, and as well as helping develop the protocols in Asia to reach a new higher milestone. And once we have talent, right, the other issue that we might run into is the issue of incubating those talents. And for that, I think we are already on the right track, right? We are starting to see many companies and many efforts, such as SCB10X running their own hackathon and blockathons, bringing together people who are interested in building something and people who have ideas to actually starting to work together to create something new and something meaningful. And also with the recent Terra hackathon with Delphi Digital, right, that we are seeing a lot of people come together from a lot of different places all around the world to create new protocols and new innovation that will, in the end, benefit everyone.
Yeah. Dong?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of multiple different things, but I think especially for Korea, so for a lot of different DeFi protocols, just by their fundamental nature, if you look at some of the top teams, they're fairly sort of unbundled, right? So what I mean by this is, there might be contributors that are coming in from multiple different systems or multiple different geographies. And in some cases, like some of these, co-founders might be anonymous to each other. And then I think sort of like the Yearn ecosystem and, places like SushiSwap is like a pretty good example of this, where you have contributors from multiple different places that meet across Telegram and GitHub. And then you sort of get hired by the DAO in some sense. I think for Asia, so just culturally, like whenever you, get a job, like you have this idea of like belonging to like a company, like sitting in an office and having some sort of, job stability and things like that. And it's just like the concept of being hired by the DAO is not one of those things that you tell your parents about, right? So I think that might be one of the barriers. And I think sort of a secondary impact is that type of being able to connect across open platforms using English and code as the main language is a little bit different in cases where like English is not your native language. But I think those things are going to get solved out over time. So for example, like in my case, like half of Terra's leadership I've never actually met in person. And the funny thing is like my head of communications, I've actually never seen his face, because whenever he jumps on Zoom calls, he never turns on video. So it's kind of hilarious.
So you still haven't seen how he looked like?
No, I haven't seen what he looks like at all. But he did turn on video a few times to other people in the company, and apparently he looks like Jack Johnson. So way to go.
Okay, all right. Tasha, how about you?
Yeah, I think both Do and Savit brought up really good points, and in my opinion, right, in Thailand particularly, or even in any country in general, blockchain itself is just one of the subsector of tech, right? So new DeFi projects, hence new startups. So what that means is not only that Thailand is important, but also the environment to make sure that it has a lot of tools, it has a lot of support from the government, the regulatories, the landscape, everything to make it right for a project to start here as opposed to starting elsewhere, right? Because if the landscape is not friendly for a DeFi project to start here, maybe because they are afraid of potential regulatory issues or even not enough support in terms of the visa that Savit says, right? Then that can pretty much hurt the long term. And I think what we're seeing in Thailand right now, and as a result, we don't have that much many projects that are coming out from Thailand as we hope, is because the startup landscape in Thailand is not strong. In order to have a strong startup landscape, you need to have a lot of component, incubator program, really strong ones, government support from the regulatory side, from the visa side, and then training from universities, from training programs, right? So there are a lot of components that would be needed, and pretty much it's not going to kickstart in 1 month, right? These things take time, and I think this is pretty much the time that Thailand should take more move and move towards growing this startup landscape in Thailand, and hence will benefit blockchain as well.
Wow, we only have limited a few minutes left. I think we actually can talk for another 1 hour here. So many questions to ask. Maybe the last 2 minutes, let's talk about advice for the DeFi founders in Asia. Tasha, you have any advice for the DeFi founders? The budding ones?
I think one thing that is really interesting about DeFi is how global and accessible it is, right? So that means that right now you don't have to only think of the network in Thailand, because it may be limited. So if you know of any project at all, you can reach out to them via Twitter. Like Dokon is here, you can reach out to him on via Twitter afterwards, saying that you just watch this conference, getting advice from you, or vice versa, right?
No more.
So I think having that mindset, no more. It's just having that mindset to reach out and get advice and get help to get started, because local resources may not be a lot to begin with.
So it.
Yeah, I think for me, right, I think my advice would be not to, go with the first option of the first idea you have, or even the easiest idea, because as Tasha said, right, DeFi is a global ecosystem, and there's a lot of talented people, talented developers and other individuals as well that you will have access to, and they will be more than happy to, answer through text if you just reach out to them through Twitter or Telegram. And if you really plan to solve a real innovative problem, right, in the end, it will benefit both you and the overall community and the overall industry more as a result.
Do?
Yeah.
Any advice?
I think the main thing is it's kind of incredible how in DeFi, how helpful everyone is, because everyone's sort of in a rush to grow the pie. So, for example, I've never met Saul in real life, but we actually work together quite a bit across a number of different things. And he's actually an investor in Anchor, so that's pretty good relationship there. So if you want to create something, even if you feel like you only have 2% of what it takes, don't worry. Rabbits and frogs on Twitter is going to fill up the other 98%, and it's going to be a pretty interesting learning opportunity. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Tasha, Savit, and Do. Really happy to have you guys here, and looking forward to have you back again in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very fun and knowledgeable panel discussion. So thank you to all panelists for sharing your insights on the Asia ecosystem.